Hello friends, what we're going to do here is Derek recently finally released a long form version that we can access on YouTube. I'm not subscribed to Spotify. I don't really know how to use I don't even know how to use new apps in general. So I didn't see the full version of the Joe Rogan podcast. But here, this is a very long, it's like an hour and 50 minutes, so almost. So we're not going 40 minutes. So we're not going to go through the whole thing. Why this is relevant to this channel, especially, is a lot of Tony's videos are about pharmacology and specifically about hormones. And Liver King, I think we can officially say, is the biggest fake natty in history, more than Mike O'Hearn, because Mike O'Hearn hasn't officially been caught, so most of the public don't know about it. So he's the biggest. It's also relevant to in honesty, being honest, especially to viewers, the honesty of health-related messages. And it's also instructive in avoiding being fooled yourself in the future. I have a podcast that I haven't posted in a long time called Bio Bros, which has Derek in it, or used to have Derek in it, and Steven. So there's the person who exposed Liver King and the person who says now, finally, that he coached Liver King. So also he explained his view. I told my opinion, I expressed my opinion basically in our video on the carnivore MD debacle, which should be what it's called, to be honest. And I think here you learn Derek is even more ethical than his actions seem. So, and which they do seem ethical for him also, but maybe not for them. The point is, I know these people individually, so I can talk to some of their personal interactions and how their integrity is, or goodness at the very least, and integrity for Derek, in Derek's case.
There will be a subsect of people who very much feel that it was a necessary evil, potentially, to get the message out. Sometimes when I think about the whole picture, it's just mind-blowing that this is even a thing. It seems like a movie almost. It's just absurd.
Oh, Derek, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, dude.
You broke the internet this week, man. What the fuck?
No, wild. Yeah, absolutely wild.
Has there ever been this much attention on you, do you think?
I don't know, to be honest. I feel like the thing is so much bigger than me at this point that I don't even know if it's necessarily attention on me or just the situation at large.
That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, so it's tough to say, but probably not. Maybe when I went on Rogan last year, I think it got a decent amount of attention, but I don't know.
How long have you been working on this?
As far as like the actual editing and putting together, the script and whatnot, I think in totality it was like a month probably.
That's quite significant, as I think for Derek and for most other YouTubers, even just getting invited to the Joe Rogan experience is sort of the highlight of your YouTube career, because, and more so than other podcasts, because it was the most successful first podcast. It set the tone for podcasts in general. Derek doesn't always do podcasts, but that's also and he's also interested in health and longevity, and has the largest following that is interested in health and longevity. Although, as I was telling you, it's not a health and longevity community as much. Maybe there's a health community, but not a longevity community as much. But a lot of those people that are interested in that, maybe because they're just intellectual people or sophisticated people, tend to move over to Joe's clients, including the health space ones. So Rhonda Patrick and Peter Attia's viewership was massively increased, and mostly driven by their appearances on the Joe Rogan podcast, especially Rhonda Patrick. So it can literally make major YouTube careers in the hundreds of thousands. Derek already reached 1 million just around the time that he was, after he was invited actually to the Rogan podcast. So he was invited a bit earlier than he appeared. But
he said that they edited for a month.
I was about to say, so
they must have known for 2 months before releasing it. This is like a lot of planning.
I wouldn't say so. So Derek moves much faster than you. If he knows about something, he immediately sacrifices his life. Have whatever.
Maybe 5 weeks. 5 weeks befopore. I mean,
no, I would say Derek works on a 24-hour schedule.
I mean, like they were editing for
Tony
a month.
Tony does not work on that schedule. He optimizes his life in that schedule, but it's across work and various other things.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't do that. He's very serious.
A month of editing and what, a week of preparing?
I wouldn't add anything. That's what I just said.
Oh, wow.
So what I was going to say, though, it's not important if it is a week. It's important as there was a month of editing, because it's that important. I was just going to say the Joe Rogan experience to him and to most other YouTubers is that important for this to have influenced his, I guess, because he's at 1.65, or it was 5 when I last saw. He's at like 1.5 now, so I think something we don't know, and Derek knows how much he's grown from it, but he says that the exposure was as big as Rogan. So this is a huge thing, and Derek is very intelligent and observative, and he would know that this would happen. But I have a theory for how this happened, which I might explain here. We'll see.
The big project.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Especially for a guy who usually just films off the cuff and just talks, whatever comes to mind kind of thing.
Yes.
Typically.
So you've put this hour-long documentary out that is talking about emails that you've received explaining what the Liver King was taking in terms of his steroid cycle, in terms of some bits of blood work and health markers and all the rest of it that you've done from that. Obviously, you've been with this content for a long time, and then you release it into the world. You know how you reacted to it, and then you're going to make predictions about how the public's going to react. What are your thoughts on the reaction to this information so far?
I think it has been it went more viral than I was expecting, but the overall response I feel was pretty aligned with what I was expecting in terms of there was going to be a subsect of people who, no matter what happened, they were still, hardcore supporters of the guy regardless. And certain individuals who kind of knew what was going to happen at some point anyways and had a feeling that this kind of information was going to come out. And like very much me as well. Like even before this stuff came to light, I was like, somebody fucking has this for sure. Like he's definitely put this out there in some context to somebody. And like as he gets, gains more notoriety, like somebody's going to feel, obliged to put out the truth, I would imagine. So I don't know, just felt like a matter of time. And I think the general response was fairly expected, just far more viral than I ever anticipated.
Well, that's riding off the back of his virality.
Yeah.
Right? He's been one of the biggest guests on pretty much every big podcast over the last year or so. The Logan Pauls, the H3s, etc. He's been everywhere. And on that, vehemently denied. Like absolutely denied. What is it that he says PEDs are? Prioritize, execute, and determinism or something?
Dominate?
Anyway, just outright Stonewall. I haven't taken. I don't need these.
Okay, Tony does this stuff himself, so this is the best time to discuss this. I would say previously, don't take somebody that creates acronyms as a source of advice. If somebody can make a very marketing phrase, a marketing aphorism usually, it's like a statement that means something. Every day is a natty wasted, what is the thing you say? Every day natty is a way wasted. So this kind of things, usually if you hear this from somebody, and I would think almost always, don't trust their information. The reason why, to be able to come up with a good marketing phrase. I've come up with some also, not for marketing, for like merchandise. That's where I thought of it. See, I never even thought of it for marketing because if you're that focused on marketing, you can't be in the details with the research unless you're interviewing experts.
You're saying Liver King should be expected to be a researcher?
I'm saying he's saying incorrect stuff. So if he was a researcher, he wouldn't. And Peter Attia isn't a researcher, but is an interviewer of researchers and makes no mistakes, ever. Derek, I've never seen make a mistake. There are people who do not make mistakes. I've seen you make mistakes, but I don't think they're intentional.
I've never seen Liver King act in a remotely like an academic or he's playing a character.
Yeah, that's even worse. I mean, then you're not even based at all. But he is not. It's not worse. It's more manipulative, and which is persuasive. Keep in mind, but it's more manipulative. But he's still grounding his stuff in the outcomes of academic research because he's clearly a guy who listens to podcasts and YouTube channels, and that's where he forms his opinions. He combined the heat, the cold shock stuff, the heat. I don't know if he does heat, which he should. If he doesn't, it's better than cold, which would be another mistake, by the way, or more important for health than cold. So, but then he has circadian eating, so he has the Sachin Panda kind of thing. I think he has circadian eating. He has the periodic fasting for sure, which is Walter Longo promoting a lot. It's literally people promoting stuff, him watching it, and then him creating a character. It's not even reading papers. So maybe he's getting the promotional stuff, but he's adding in commercial other stuff that isn't very useful or bad for you, and he's missing some of the popular stuff. Like Peter Attia is always talking about protein content in the diet. Well, not always, but he mentions it. I mentioned it, and so some people would know that if they really paid attention.